going. So first thing I wanted to say is that, oh, so Diane, you said you're insecure about the technology. You're knocking it. You just knocked it out of the park. You got it. So yeah, no, good job. You did it. Um, yeah, no, I know, the technology is a little weird. And as much as I'm on face or I'm doing this, streaming to Facebook and blah, 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 yesterday, I couldn't get it to work. Like, I mean, I was just panicking. I had that sneak peek yesterday and I could not get it to work, but eventually we've got it. So let me just give me 1 minute. I'm going to hop over and make sure this is streaming in the group. It looks like it is. All right, let's get rolling. And my job is to not only help you guys along the way with all of this, but it's to also like not talk all day. So make sure that if I'm talking all day, you're just like, stop with this, Kelly. So a couple of things. I know a few of the people on the call personally, and thank you. It's good to see you here. And then some of y'all are new to me. So I want to make sure that I do introduce myself. But first, I just want to talk about like what this, like, why even show up, right? Like what's in this for you? And what I'll say is that in the past, I've done this program live a few times with different groups, and I've done it for myself. And I'm going to talk about my journey because it taught me a whole lot. So, but what I learned was that you feel better, right? Like in my world, I want to feel good. Like that is like one of my drivers, is that if I don't feel good, then it's really hard to do all the things I want to do. And feel good to me means energy. It means not having aches and pains. And believe me, I have had enough injuries over the years doing different things that I've had some aches and pains. And it also means just like steady, because there's a steady that happens with your emotions when you get off the sugar cycle. It's kind of interesting. And I have always thought that I was like, oh, Miss Chill. But I will promise you, I noticed a big difference when I changed what I was doing. I noticed a big difference. And so just letting you guys know that you'll see that. You'll also see, like, if you have some of that brain fog, you'll start seeing it lessen. So those are some of the things that I've noticed. And just so y'all know, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Kelly Howard, and I have been best known for a very long time for helping women get super active in the outdoors. Like that's what I did. And I did it through a company I had called Bayou City Outdoors. And I don't run that company anymore. But what I found along the way when I was doing it is that we're only as good as how we feel. Okay. We can only do as much as we want to do as how we feel. And for me, that's where the energy comes in. That's where the just, feeling your best when you wake up. That's when it all comes together. So my past is definitely helping women get really good at what they want to do. And usually really good at what they want to do translates loosely into going hiking and going backpacking and going cycling and going kayaking and doing like all the fun. Like if you hang out with me anytime, you'll find that my deal is all about having fun. Like that's my thing. I love to play, and I love to play a lot. And I've also noticed that sometimes when you're not feeling great, it's hard to do what you want to do. So that's me. And then what I want to talk about today, actually, this is like the foundation to this whole thing. And well, let me tell you, if you don't mind, how this worked for me. A few years ago, I was doing a lot of training, which included a lot of cycling, a lot of weightlifting, some hiking and running, like all the things. But I noticed that on some mornings, I just like, even though I'm getting up at 5 and going and doing these things, I'm not feeling it. And I'm feeling kind of like, why bother? Right? It's like, it's like, even though I'm doing all this, I'm not getting anywhere. And and I have been a vegetarian for a very long time. So my first thought was, it's because I don't eat protein. That's my problem. I need to eat more protein. Um, but what I found, well, actually, like we're going to talk about this tomorrow, but the first thing I found was that the protein I started eating was like laden with sugar, and I didn't even get it. Like I didn't even snap to it. So, but that was my first thought. And then my second thought was I started really like looking into not just nutrition, because I eat pretty well. I really do. I eat darn good. And I love to eat. So that's not a problem. But what I started noticing was that there were certain things that I would do, and it usually involved either wine, and even like one glass of wine can knock my sleep off, and it can make me feel kind of like ishy the next day, or something that's sugary. Like I started really noticing that these things were throwing me off the next morning. They were throwing me off when I wanted to train. So I thought, well, why don't I just not eat sugar? Right? We'll just stop it all. I'm going to do this for 30 days. This will be great. Why not? Right? So boom, cold turkey, 30 days. What I found was that I wasn't prepared, right? I just simply wasn't prepared. And I just like got by on willpower and sheer pain, sheer pigheadedness for 30 days, really. And at the end of 30 days, I was like, oh my gosh, I am so glad I'm done with that. Like that was brutal. Um, but, but I noticed that I felt better. I was sleeping better, and it's called an Aura ring. So I track my sleep with it, and I noticed that my sleep was immensely better, right? My sleep had just like popped way up. Um, and I wasn't having all the kind of hip and joint pain that I normally have. So that was at the end of 30 days. Um, so I just kind of sat with it for a couple of weeks. And then one morning I'm sitting there, and early morning I'm sitting there with my cat and kind of journaling. And it just like popped in my head. And I went, wait a second, like, why should I feel great after 30 days of not eating sugar if I didn't use any of the tools that I know work to change our behavior, right? Like I wasn't trying to change my behavior. I was just trying to just muscle through. And so then I was like, sometimes you have those eureka moments when you're just like, how could I not have thought about that? And that was the truth. It was like, how could I not have thought about that? And so then I went, okay, let's do this again, but let's do this again with intelligence. Like, let's use your brain, Kelly. And so I started bringing in all the things I knew, like all the stuff that works for when we're training, when we're changing behaviors, when we're shifting habits, like all those things, the things that go on in our brains. Like we could have a 3-day conversation about our brains, but we're not, I promise we won't right now. But I started putting all that together. And then the next time was really a lot easier. Like it was a lot simpler. And so I thought, okay, well, that was interesting. Next time I did it for 60 days. Then I did it for 90 days. And I'm going to give you a caveat here. I don't do this all the time. Okay. And there's a reason I don't do this all the time, is that I believe that there's things in life that we enjoy. Okay. Whatever it is that we enjoy, whether it's, a slice of cake, a glass of wine, I don't know, a piece of chocolate, whatever it is. I don't think those things are inherently bad. I think they're bad when they're too much. They're bad when they throw us off. They're bad when they cause inflammation. They're bad when they give us brain fog. That's when they're bad. So once we get through this, I want to talk about, get through this. That sounded dire, didn't it? Once we get through 30 days, then I always talk about maintenance, right? Like how can we bring a maintenance period in here? And if we're hitting 80 to 90% of what we want to do, then we're rocking it. Okay. I do not believe in, no fun food ever again in your life. So those are the things that I'd like you to know about today. As far as what my first step is for what we're doing is what I like to call the runway. Okay. And a runway is simply where we create a foundation. And that foundation is what's going to make us strong, because a good foundation, like the right foundation, makes everything easier. A bad foundation, like the first time I did this, I had no foundation. I was just like doing it, right? Um, and so I was getting triggered by all the things that I hadn't gotten rid of in my world. I was getting, emotionally triggered. It's just all the stuff. So when we're talking about a runway, what I'd like y'all to think about, and hopefully everybody's gotten your download from your welcome letter. So in that download or in that guidebook, it talks about a few things that you can do. And what the runway is it's when you set yourself up to win by removing the things that are in your way. Okay. And for this specific thing, like sugar freedom, things that are in your way could be the junk in the cabinet. Okay. Could be all that stuff in our cabinet that we really don't, that we really shouldn't be eating. Because, okay, and I'm going to take this a little further. This may be the thing nobody wants to hear, but just because you quit eating sugar for a period of time doesn't mean you want to replace it with salty, greasy, carbohydrate snacks. Okay, because that is a lot of times what the first desire is. If you get rid of the sugar, you think, well, I'll eat the Doritos or whatever you like to eat. So we want that runway to be where you take all that stuff out of the cabinet. And that can be a little harder right now because a lot of people, myself included, have someone still working from home with me. And so all those snacks that he happens to enjoy are the ones that, I might need to remove. So figure out how to negotiate that. Okay. You want to negotiate that issue. But you want to first start with your cabinets and take out the stuff that isn't going to support you. Okay. You could, I don't care. You could put it at your neighbor's house. It doesn't matter. Like you don't have to throw it all away, but just remove it for right now. Then look in your refrigerator and look in your freezer. So I have to tell a story. Years and years ago, 20 something years ago, when I first met my father-in-law, when I'm stressed, I want sugar. Okay. So let's not say that they were stressing me out, but I was having a desire for some sugar. And I said to him, I said, do you happen to have any chocolate? And he looks at me and he's like, shh, follow me. And so I follow him down the stairs into the basement. They live in Canada. So it's like down in the lower bowels of the basement, into the back freezer. And then out comes all this stuff. And underneath was the stash. Like there was a stash down there. And this is someone who shouldn't be eating sugar. Like he has some health issues. And I laughed like it was funny, but at the same time I thought, okay, it's not helping him that it's hidden there. And it's just like this for us. If it's going to be something that you're constantly thinking about being in the house, get it out of the house. And we're only talking 30 days. Okay. Actually, right now we're just talking a week, right? We're just talking about for a week. So start getting rid of that stuff. What you will learn too is that there are a lot of things that we eat that we don't realize have a ton of sugar in them. For instance, one of the women in my inner circle group, we were going through this. We did this in January, I think. So we went through the sugar freedom. And she's been eating and I mean, I've seen it. Like I know her. I've seen what she eats. It's not very exciting, quite frankly. It's not very exciting. It's like this little bran squiggles that she's been eating every morning for, I think she said 15 or 20 years. Like she's been eating this every day. She doesn't think about it. So she actually looked at the package finally, and it had, I'm going to have to make it up because I don't remember exactly, but something like 15 grams of sugar in this stuff, right? So there's a lot of stuff that happens that goes into our mouth that we may not even realize. Like for me, I you may have heard me say this, but in my desire to find more protein in my diet, I was eating these protein bars that were also, they were made by the company whose supplements I use, like powdered supplements I use. So of course they would be good, right? It never even occurred to me to look at the label. All I was looking at was that 20 grams of protein. And when I finally looked at the label, I think it had 18 grams of sugar in it. So, right? I mean, that's a lot of sugar. And this is somebody who's always said, how can we eat that much sugar, right? Like this average, I don't know what they say, the average person eats a lot of sugar, right? And I was like, how can they say that? The truth is that there I was pretty much every day throwing down about 4 teaspoons of sugar in that bar, thinking I was doing something healthy for myself. So just start looking around. Like there's some things that are blatant. It's what I call the blatant sugar. It's the junk in the cabinets. It's the junk in the fridge. It's junk in the freezer. It's the Coca-Colas. It's the Diet Colas. Even though there's no sugar in that, there are things in there that we should not be consuming. Okay, just saying this. And then you also want to just look at the labels. And on those labels, you don't want things you can't pronounce. Okay. And I am a bit of a fanatic. Okay. I will tell you, I'm a bit of a fanatic when it comes to the kind of food we eat. But even saying that, I think it's super important for us to understand what it is that we're eating. And so you're looking for your blatant sugars, which are those things that you just flat out know. They are the things you shouldn't be eating. And then you're looking for those things that are hidden. Okay. And hidden sugars could be your dressings. For me, like one of them I was very surprised about was my balsamic vinegar. The balsamic vinegar, which I ate every day because that's the dressing I like, had more sugar than I like the idea of. What are some other hidden sugars? In fact, if anyone on here has hidden sugars they'd like to tell me about, go for it. Because I will tell you, our group the group that just went through sugar freedom for 30 days, man, they were like white on rice, as we say in the South, because they figured out where all the sugar was. And then they also found things that were good replacements. Okay. And we'll talk about replacements and substitutions really quick. Let me just throw this out real quick because I don't want to get into a long teaching on this, but I just want you to think about it. There are things that you can substitute that are good for you, right? And then there are things that you kind of do a replacement on, and all it does is it's not changing your behavior because you're still having the same stuff. It's just not having the sugar. For instance, let me give you a for instance, because I'm not doing a great job of explaining that. Here's a for instance. In one of my groups, one of the ladies had, she loved sugar, like she loved sugar and she loved wine. So she liked it all. And she was doing a pretty good job of quitting the sugar. But the wine was getting to her. It was like, it's just too much. I can't get rid of everything. I can't get rid of all my fun food. So she looked around and she found a wine that was completely free of sugar. And she started drinking it. But what she realized was she was drinking it in the exact same way, the exact same manner that she had been drinking wine before. It was just something that was, without sugar. And so she hadn't changed her behavior. She had just changed what was going in her mouth. So what that means is that at that particular group was 30 days. At the end of 30 days, she went right back to the old behavior because she hadn't had any behavior changes. All right, I'm going to stop real quick. And I want to just ask in those people who are on the Zoom, if you have anything that you want to add in the chat, go for it. You can just type it in the chat. For those of you who are on Facebook, same thing. Let me know what you want to ask, what you want to put in here. So Nancy said, yeah, things that have sugar that you don't expect. Soup, some spices, right? Milk can have it. Anne said that. Anything less fat. When you have something less fat, and we can talk about this a whole lot more later, but when you have something less fat, you need to see what that really means. Like, what are you actually eating? What are you actually consuming? It's kind of like consuming non-sugar drinks. Are you consuming non-sugar drinks that are, or diet drinks that are actually something healthy? Or is it something that is that nasty stuff that you shouldn't be consuming, right? There's all this stuff, and it's a lot of it, the foundation is just about awareness. So coming back to this, let's think about it real quick. Your blatant sugar, pretty easy to know what we're talking about. And I suggest, and I'm pretty sure it's in your guidebook, that you actually just go through the guidebook. There's a page there that lets you write down what some of the blatant sugar is so that you're aware, because awareness is the first step to anything, right? When we're aware of what we're doing, or when we're aware of what we want, when we're aware of whatever, then done. We're halfway there. It's like my coach says, she says, a problem well stated is halfway answered. And in my world, it's like when you're aware, you're already halfway there. So blatant sugar, and then start looking at the hidden sugars. And the hidden sugars, you can again write them down in your guidebook, because you're going to start seeing places that you don't expect hidden sugars, and you'll find them. So think about that. Then the other thing is, I'm not going to blame it on brain fog. I just forgot what we're going to talk about. I will say one thing, and this is something that's come up a lot for the groups, is that when you start doing this, increase your water consumption. Because increasing, right? Sherry's in there with me. Let's have some water. Why not, right? You want to increase your water consumption for a number of reasons. One of them is just darn good for you. And sometimes if you're not super aware of how much water you're consuming, you'll realize that you're actually not consuming enough, right? Sometimes you think that you only need to consume the water when you're exercising. It's not the deal. Okay. Who has questions? Anyone? Does anyone have any questions about this? And if you don't, it is okay, because has a huge jug of water. This water glass is the only thing in my world that I haven't broken. Like, I am the worst with glass. I break everything, but I've been dragging this, I think it's like a quart of water jug around with me for years. And I like drinking out of glass. So yeah, and I keep it on my desk, so it makes me super cognizant that it's there. Okay. Objections. Let's talk about some of the things that I've been hearing about already. Okay. I have people that have said that I can't do this right now because I've got something coming up. Okay. I have a trip coming up, or I have a party coming up, or whatever it is. I've got something coming up. And so I'm going to have to wait. My suggestion, don't wait. Like, don't wait. Because for two reasons. One, starting something right now is always better than waiting, right? What is that? A bird in the bush, or bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. Starting something today is better than waiting for something next week, because oftentimes we won't get to it. Okay. We will say that we're going to do something, but then it happens. We'll be like, well, next week. Number one reason I see people not exercising, I'll start next week. I'll do this next week. Forget that. Let's just do it right now. So that's one thing. And let me tell you something about that, or suggest something about that. So let's say you have something coming up, okay? And it's something where you know that there's going to be lots of dessert or lots of wine or whatever. It doesn't matter to me. It's really good to do this now when you've got support, because what happens is that if you're doing great, let's say you're doing great for 5 days, right? And then the event happens. And you're like, the next day you're thinking, I never can stop this. I just keep doing this again and again and again, even though I want to quit. The truth is that we can help you come back. Accountability is powerful. Accountability is super powerful. Community is super powerful. And you need to learn this because, like I said, I mean, we're not about no fun food for the rest of our lives. So we have to figure out how to do the things we want to do and then come back to what it is that we want. Another thing people say is that I've tried this before and it doesn't work. Absolutely. Like, it happens to everybody. I won't lie. But when you have the tools and the community and the accountability and all those things that are on your side, it makes it so much easier. It's kind of like the difference between the first time I did it and, the last time, not the last time I did it, but last year, like I was, when are we? We're 2021. Okay. Just before the whole lockdown started where I live. I'm in Houston. Just before all that started, I did a 90-day one and it was just fine. It was like no big deal because I knew the tools. And that's what we're going to talk about. And then also, like, sometimes people say that I've done this before and then I just substitute, the junk food. We're not going to do that. Okay. We're going to get rid of the junk food too. And we're going to figure out ways around it. Okay. And I will tell you this, and I won't jump on a big soapbox, but I will just say this one thing is that the food industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry that has learned how to manipulate our desires when it comes to food. Okay. So if you're craving the salty sweet or the salty whatever, and you're craving the desires that you aren't having normally because you're not having sugar, then what's going to happen is that we're going to figure out a way around that too. Okay. All right. Last call. Anyone have questions? Because I don't want to keep you here all day, but I do want to talk about tomorrow real quick. So any questions? All right. You guys are a quiet group, but that's okay. Quiet's good. Couple of things you should know. The 6 p.m. event, this is 6 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to do a rehash of what we talked about today, and then I'm also going to answer questions. So if you think of something during the day, you can do one of several things. You can tag me in the Facebook group and say, hey, here's a question I thought of. Can you answer this? Or you can come to the 6 o'clock call, or you can drop me an email, because all those emails that you're going to be getting this week reminding you to show up are going to come directly back to me. Okay. And I see those emails. So you can do any of those things, because the deal is I'm here this week to support you. Your homework is going to be to sit down and go through, or not sit down, just stand up and go through your closet, your pantry, your refrigerator, your wherever, and find the food that you don't need to have in there right now and decide what you're going to do with it. Okay. I mean, for some of us, we can just like slide it away and not think about it. And I will tell you, I'm not going to dive into this because this is one of my dirty secrets, but I'll tell you about it later. So my dirty secret is I crave Coca-Cola when I am highly stressed. Like, that is, and I can tell you why. I'll tell you why later this happens. But what I used to do is I would keep some over at my neighbor's house. Honest to goodness, I'd keep some over there just in case, like I really needed it. And then I would go over there and I'd have to ask her for one. And usually it would stop me completely, right? But I found that when it didn't stop me, it was stressing me out. So you just want to get this stuff out of there, okay? Out of here. And then what we're going to talk about, and if you're having trouble hearing me right now, I apologize. The gentleman who helps me with the yard is here, I guess, right on time. So I'm going to wrap this up pretty quick, but I want to talk about like tomorrow. It's easy, like when we want to change, right? We want to make these changes, but there's something that stacks against us, and it's what I call triggers. Okay. Triggers are like, they could be an emotional trigger. You get upset about something. Like me talking about stress, like that's an emotional trigger, right? I'm triggered when I get triggered by stress. Or it could be a time trigger. I have a client that at 3 o'clock, she wants a Diet Coke. That is just, by gosh, her trigger. And we have done everything we could possibly think of to allow her to ignore 3 o'clock and do something different. So that's a trigger. A person can trigger us, right? Location can trigger us. I mean, there's a lot of things that can trigger us. And when we get triggered, that's when all our defenses go down. Okay. That's when we just want to eat the thing, or we just want to drink the wine, or whatever it is. That's what happens. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow, because once you can handle triggers, then you're halfway there. Okay. So just quick wrap up. We're going to tomorrow tomorrow's about triggers. Today, we're going to talk about, we already talked about, just like coming up with your runway. And your runway is that foundation that's going to make it strong for you. So getting rid of the things that you don't want, okay? Getting rid of those things that you don't want to be consuming right now. Knowing that it's not forever. Like if you tell yourself that I can never, ever have chocolate again, okay? Just tell yourself that real quick. I can't ever have chocolate again. How do you feel? Like you don't like me, right? So if that's that's what you like, if you like chocolate. So I don't want people to think that way, because when you think that way, all the defenses come up. So we're not going to talk about that. We're going to just talk about the fact that we're just going to do this in pieces. We're going to do this in small pieces, and small pieces work. All right. Any questions? And if you have any questions, just drop them in the Facebook group to me. Come join us at the 6 o'clock if you just can't stand it and you want to do this some more. Otherwise, tomorrow, we're going to talk about triggers, and I will see all of you there. Thank you so very much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. So good to see everybody. Bye-bye now. Take care.